It is the kind of behavior that has given Chris Christie huge popularity and approval numbers, and it's made him a force when it comes to Republican battle for the White House. But this week, that bully image, the tough guy routine, may have started to backfire for the New Jersey governor. Times taking him to the woodshed here, writing of stories that have added up that the bully image isn't necessarily so funny if you're on the other end. Yes, that includes the recent mess over the lane closures on the GW, apparently done as political payback, creating traffic messes in Fort Lee, all allegedly to punish the Democratic mayor there after he refused to endorse Christie's re-election bid. Two Christie appointees to the Port Authority, they've now resigned, and the investigations continue. But wait, there is more and a lot of it. Times outlining other payback moves from Christie, including Christie taking away police security from a former Democratic governor after he criticized Christie, yanking the funding from a Rutgers professor, killing the judicial appointment of a state senator, and disinviting a state senator from an event the governor was holding in his home district. In fact, Tom Kean Jr., yes, son of another former governor, all seeming acts of payback after the people involved had the temerity to criticize or even cross Christie, sometimes even in very muted ways. Now, here's the money quote from the assemblyman leading the investigation into the bridge mess. Quote, "The governor, in his public appearances, has made thuggery acceptable," adding, "He created the atmosphere in which this is acceptable." Now listen, let's make clear here, for 4 years he hasn't tiptoed around. This isn't always behind the scenes. I remember there were events here where he had public school teachers where he dared one of them to come up to the stage and he challenged them. I've been to events where I've covered it where I expect the crowd to turn on him. At the end they give him standing O's. So I've thrown up my hands trying to figure out here how the appeal hasn't always gone too far, but it's worked for him. And he's come off, as we've said, as authentic. But it does beg the question, Andrew, if there's a line, and if it's that you add up enough of these things and it creates a narrative that's not funny anymore or endearing, or that this is a cultivated image that is so counter to the typical politician that he's going to keep feeding into this thing here between now and 16.
Well, again, you're talking about this playing out in two different arenas. The political insider arena, does this hurt him in trying to get his agenda across, or does it actually help him in terms of people not wanting to cross him for fear of retribution on their own? Then there's the public perception. Does it hurt him in public? I think for now it's continued to help him publicly. But if it's seen as hurting his agenda or making him a less effective governor, I think people will turn on him very, very quickly. And then, of course, you put this in the 2016 framing, and I don't think this will play as well in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, where this stuff will come out. He'll cross the line, whether it's in person or whether it's through some of his actions.
You know, Tom, this isn't like this is not in the playbook of any governor. They either outsource it. Our good friend Tom Doherty was the axe man for Mr. Pataki. He used to, lay down the hammer. And if you read the story here, and I know a lot of the principals involved, they've told me stuff even worse than this off camera, is that he's bipartisan in this. Republicans or Democrats, if you don't go along to get along with him, and they now, as they even said in this story, they'll think twice here before they check first with him what they're going to say. But can you remember an elected who was this heavy-handed?
Yes, and even better than this.
Elliot Spitzer.
Been there, done that. Governor Christie, you're a bad impersonation of Rudy Giuliani. Period. Anything that Christie is doing, Rudy takes it to a level 10. Trust me when I tell you that. I remember, America's mayor, we're looking at him right now, they're on screen, when he smiles and laughs. But I remember when we were in Israel, and he told us in Israel, the moment I get back, Bratton is done as police commissioner. We got back, and within a matter of a week, Bratton, I went to visit him, Richard. He had Bratton working all the way so far out on Long Island. Nobody wants to go out that far. And he was able to recover and come back. So this is not going to work for Christie. It's not. Wouldn't
you have said the same thing, though, a few years ago?
Yes, because see what's going on now. He's in bed with some of the reporters that are covering him. So they go along to get along and don't report the real Christie, and he gives them an interview. But sooner or later, he's going to step on the wrong toes, and it's over.
You guys are failing to distinguish about this line. A tough guy who fires his police commissioner, a tough guy who is candid and almost rude but not quite with people, That's fine, and that will play. What he's done here is an abuse of power for his own personal gratification. That's crossing a line.
Take
that
out the
is
GW story for 1 second. Okay, take that out because there's some dispute.
Yanking a guy's police protection because of a comment made
Dick Cody, yeah.
is crossing a line. He's crossed that line. That now, whether it comes back to bite him and how heavily, there are two ways to look at that. One, people will just talk about it and go, no. I think there's likely to be some of that. But there's much more likely to be TV ads done by people who want to take them down, in which this stuff is played
you could
in
have
the
said
most
the same
unfavorable
thing.
light to him.
You could have said the same thing really for the last 3 or 4 years now with him. It's not a new routine. To be fair to him, he's been consistent. Wouldn't you have thought honestly that it would have been more of a net negative for him till now?
Line with this stuff
But Richard,
that he had stayed before. He's now Elliot Spitzer, the steamroller.
But here's the issue.
When he wasn't, he was just a
Here's
tough
the
guy.
issue, though. It always depends on the alternative. We're talking in the abstract. Who's running against Christie, and how are they going to use this?
But
How are they using
to be
this?
fair, though, but to be fair, he has a Democrat legislature. Okay, so it's not it's not like there are shrinking violets in Trenton that aren't afraid to take him on. I mean, Wisniewski was the guy who even went on the record with it. He's managed to, I'm not trying to deify the guy, but he's managed to work not in some red state here with this routine. He's doing this in a blue state with a Democratic legislature that all won't go along to get along with him. But it's managed to work that they run scared from him now.
I agree. And the question is not that. You're talking about how it's going to play in 16.
Yeah.
Who are the alternatives in that party, and how do they position themselves? How do they use this? It's out there. Richard's right. It's out there.
Well,
the
let's go national. I'll give you the question.
Okay.
Aren't Republicans tired of being in the wilderness? And if there's one guy who's willing to stand up to the Tea Party faction, I don't know if he's going to win the primary, but if there's one guy, who better than him?
Is he going to stand up to the Tea Party faction,
yes.
or is he going to placate
He's already
that
done
faction?
it.
Well, he's done it, but the question is he's got 3 years to make up with them. And is he going to see that as more prudent politically than anything else? He's a guy who's unsteady on issues. I don't think that matters right now. What matters is who do the Republicans have to take him on, and how are they going to try to use this information, this personality? Do they have a conciliator amongst them who's going to say, this ain't playing? On a national level, this is going nowhere.
What the Times story did was move this from tough guy, I kind of like it, but I'm kind of a little worried, moved it across the line into bully and abuse of power. It's that line crossing.
Okay.
That's
I got to hit a break, but I want to ask you, because you've seen different governors come through Albany. Is it better to be feared than loved? And I ask that because...
a scene from a Bronx Tale?
I'm trying to. Okay, you love The Godfather. No,
I would rather be feared than loved.
No, but seriously,
fear lasts longer than love.
how much is it important that the legislature has to know that if I cross this guy, one way or the other, there's going to be consequences?
The interesting thing about
because people say that's part of Obama's problem.
That is Obama's problem.
The interesting, it's not part of Obama's
Yes,
problem.
it is.
The
He loves
interesting
to
part
disagree with everything.
about, not everything, just your stuff. The interesting part about guys like that is they tend to pay attention only to the people who cross them. They're not good to their friends. And if you're strong enough as an enemy, they'll deal with
But
it.
again, from somebody who loves to get along with everyone like you, Richard, I ask again the same question. Isn't it important that there's an element of fear in people that are looking to score political points off you, that if you do cross me, take the pettiness out, there will be consequences to be
When people
paid.
act that way, you got to cross them back, and then you settle it out like gentlemen.
You got a governor in New York right now that's doing
Yes.
that, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you.
And no one will stand up to him. And I mean no one.
Including the Attorney General, the Comptroller, all the way up and down,
Because the legislature's afraid of being indicted, criminally indicted.
By the government.
Oh, you gotta bring it out. So Richard's got to eat that one. When we come back here, the cultural divide in America. Oh, that was worth the
He's
presentation
not
right
in it
there.
anymore. Let's be fair to
You
Richard.
think we don't have one here in this divide? Well, just take a look at the mess with both Duck Dynasty and before that. It's not just what Robertson said, but the split in the reaction since he said it, from red and blue states to not only red and blue neighborhoods, even houses. Why is the divide seemingly here as pronounced as it is? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's always been that way. We'll get into that conversation when RFL continues.
I'm Sergeant First Class Clark. I'm stationed at Guantanamo Bay, and it's gorgeous here. I just want to give a holiday shout out to my mom, Sarah, in Sayreville, New Jersey. Hey, Mom, I'll be home soon. I love you so much and miss you. Thank you for everything you've done for me while I've been away.